I was lost, standing at the foot of an untempered schism, swirling and rising above me. Wherever I fell from was no longer visible. It's been so long now I don't even remember where that could have been. But then I was found. A lady with age behind her eyes and a smile on her face approached me, on the steps on which I stood so long ago, and outstretched her arm. An offer? Of what? Friendship? Kindness? Salvation? When I was 1, I'd play on the mountains as the second star would rise in the south. The grass would glisten and the leaves would fall, creating this silver cover of the ground below that we would wade through, me and him. My oldest friend. My first friend. My only friend. Underneath one of the tallest mountains, on my new home, was an abandoned little hideaway. A place only a child knows. We would sit, legs hanging over the edge, looking at the people below. I thought it was so beautiful. It reminded me of somewhere else so very far away. He saw the look in my eyes, the eyes he'd known so well, and saw something he'd never seen before. The abandon. Taking me to the mountaintop, I was shown the star rising, how the pools of light shone around it, ripples and swirls of pure ecstasy. The sky was alive with luminescence. I felt like I could hear it calling to me, a song from the void, the most beautiful song. It was too far for my hand to grasp, and I felt the planet I now belonged to pull me to the surface. Falling once again, until that same luminescence greeted me. Light and energy surrounded me as my old thoughts were replaced with new ones. The age in my eyes staying the same, but the outlook, the vision, the world around me changing. The light fading. When I was 2, the lady found me again. Skepticism and confusion behind her eyes, but trying her best to keep that same warm smile as she outstretched her hand once more. There was a small shack on the east of this brand new world, beaten and decrepit, with the wood worn and aging, like the woman who dwelled inside. She took me, sat me down and looked at me, her impossible child. Over the next few days, I did not see the starlight. She just looked, puzzled, like the mystery had to be solved. She took care of me too, told me stories of demons rising from the smoke, angels falling from the sky, the abandoned and the afraid standing on the steps of everything they had once known, looking at whirlpools of beauty. When you're a child, you think these stories are so real. As the veil of innocence lifts, you realize they are nothing but fiction. Not this time. The age behind the eyes told a different story. Which begs the question, who is this demon rising from the smoke, determined and deranged? Who? After weeks of kindness and pity from the woman, I stepped outside the barn. There sat my friend. They looked at me too, with the same confusion. It was the eyes, the trickery of the eyes. They could see me in the eyes, but everything else died in the light. I smiled at them, and they looked at me. I felt the same sense of abandon rush through my veins, into my head and my hearts. One last time, they looked into my eyes and started to head back to the mountain. Our mountain. As the years passed, I changed again and stayed in this small little barn on the outskirts of everything that was to come. Each time with new eyes, more alone than I'd ever been, but with her, the woman, the sweet, kind woman. But with every new pair of eyes, she would look so different. When I was 3, the kind became the weary. I was no longer sat on a little wooden chair, but strapped to a table. I was ensured that it was for my own safety, and I believed her, as children do tend to believe their guardian angel. She continued to tell these stories when the curiosity ceased, or so I thought. The same stories, falling angels and rising demons. When I was 4, the weary became the sick. Sick with this obsession. With me, her child, the starlight would seep through the gaps in the ancient walls every now and then, giving me a glimpse of the outside world, even if it were for only a shining moment. I often wondered what it would be like out there now. It had been so long. Do the plains still stretch as far as the eye could see? Is the grass still red? Do the leaves still cover the ground for the children to wade through? What became of our mountain? I don't think I'll ever know now. When I was 5, the sick became the callous. The smile had faded from my memory, as had the world around me, with only fiction and light shining through the gaps to pass the time, my only company being the stories of good and evil. But the stories had started to change. The demons were no longer rising, they were among us. They had risen to us on the same red grass, wading through the same silver leaves. Angels now had to defend themselves and the sky which they fell from, or cover their faces in shame. One day the angels will ascend again, I was told. When I was 6, the starlight shone through the gaps once more, and born from the callous became the insane, the deranged. But behind the deranged there was that same look of kindness, or was it pity now? Hundreds of years confined within the same 4 walls, I'd struggled to tell the difference. At least with these eyes, one day, perhaps out of that same pity, the shackles of the table were not as tight. My wrists broke free, and I peered through the gaps to see what became of my new home. I was told this barn was on the outskirts of greatness. Now I was to witness greatness with my own eyes and the age behind them. Plains where me and him played were now overpowered by the beginnings of a citadel. The luminescence of the sky now captured in a big glass dome. Imprisoned, shunned from experiencing the rest of the world, I pitied it. That sky. They had even tamed the schism and called it their own. Wherever it was I came from all those years ago, the gap from which I fell, finding a new home, by my side once again, yet just out of reach, a gap in time. Trapped and confined in one spot on the outskirts of the citadel. An outcast, long forgotten. How very familiar. I saw 2 children playing on that same mountain which had been chiseled away over years of play and torment. It reminded me of him. Those on this planet have a long lifespan, but even so, he would have been left to the confines of time by now. Buried under those same silver leaves we played in as children somewhere. I turned around to hear the door creak open. She had returned. The kindness had faded. I was looking at an elderly, worn and decrepit woman. Silver hair hiding one side of her face. Maybe compassion was to be found there. I would never know. All I could see was the anger, the fury. And soon after, I changed again. I don't even know how old I am now. I lost count a very long time ago. After a few more years confined to the barn, she discovered it. My mystery, this way of cheating death, this curse, spliced into every single one of them. I would look upon the citadel from our broken mountain and wonder, who had built it, good or bad, angels or demons? Maybe it doesn't even matter now. This resplendent citadel I now sit at the heart of, writing this. In the same chair I was confined to when I was a mere curiosity, aging and broken like the rest of us, writing a story. One last story of angels and demons.
And there it is, the story of our people, born from a lonely child and a broken old woman haggard in her shack. Long forgotten by most, until now. What do you think?
I don't understand.
You don't understand what, child?
The story.
This is the story of me, us, our lives. All of them spent in the dark and the cold. But now we know why.
Not that story. The story of angels and demons. Why?
There was a belief, a long time ago, that there were angels and there were demons. But life is rarely ever that simple. You know, they go by a different name now.
Do you know what I see in you?
Doesn't bear thinking about. What must you see in me? A demon rising from the smoke and ashes of a broken world?
No. I see both, just like the rest of us.
Even in a centuries-long time war, even after losing your family, you still have a glimmer of optimism. I pity you, my dear. Don't you want the truth? To join me in my crusade to make a better multiverse? To craft a better plane from the entropy of our own? Take your journal. It is time you found out the truth about your people and how they have been manipulating you, training you, even from the dark and the ashes. Listen to your cassette tapes, and then return to me. It is then I shall reveal the truth of who you are, Susan Foreman, and who you are destined to become. I shall make a Lord Burner out of you yet, and on that day, you will add a new entry to your diary. An entry that depicts the truth of who you are.